Alright everyone, welcome to another episode of Snakes on the Plane. I would be postponing this video originally I have because I am ill, and so I'm sorry if my voice sounds a little funky, and also it is incredibly windy outside. I don't know what's going on. It's Nebraska for you though, right? But I can't really postpone it any longer if I want to show you what I want to show you. So we just had our very first show, which is totally exciting, but unfortunately one of my friends actually got snake mites, and he also produced 2 albino twins that are in here that have not taken a meal. So he asked me if I could take them because he wasn't comfortable assist feeding, and I could get them back up to weight, get them eating, and then get them off to good homes. So of course I said yes. So we have right here, the 2 twins are in here, and again, they are infested with mites. You can see just what I have is a box full of Polyfill. Polyfill is what a lot of snake breeders use to ship their snakes because it actually is a great insulation, and it allows a lot of air movement. So I know that's kind of contradictory, but really it does work. And then I have the thermostat over there in the corner. The thermostat is set to 95. That might seem kind of high, but when you have babies that aren't eating, it's okay to really bump up those numbers, especially with them being very small because they're twins, and because they need a little bit of an immunity boost, like an immune system boost, and the heat will do that. So I'm just going to open this up, set the lid over here, and you want to keep an area that you can just spray down like crazy with mite spray. I have some nicks right here. I'm going to shake it up good for y'all, and that is what I use. And then again, these are just the Polyfill. And I'm going to spray the lid down with Nix. I've also sprayed all around the carpet because those snake mites can get in the carpet, but I'm going to place the Polyfill in the lid because there's a good chance that some mites got in there. There we go. And I kind of have all their other things that they came in over in this area. Originally, I had these water bowls in there, and just so I can spray things down for a couple days, spray the carpet down around it, and really just have this area off limits and really treated well for mites. So what we're going to do is we're going to check on them first, and I actually assist fed them their very first meal. This one over here was pretty resistant. This one over here was basically dead. He took it, and I checked on him yesterday. I didn't do any mite treatment yesterday except spray a little bit of the cage, and he seemed fine. I didn't bother him at all, so hopefully he made it. It can be a little bit touch and go when they have their first meal because of how much they actually have to absorb, or how much work they have to do to absorb their meal. So you can see, even with it being that warm in here, it is only 82 degrees. It does look like it got up to 90, and that is because of the window behind me. I noticed it was shining pretty well in here, so I'm gonna have to 90 is the hottest I would want it to get to, so it does make me uncomfortable. So what I will do is make sure that those blinds get drawn during the peak hours of sun during the day. Make sure the blinds in here are closed too. That way we don't have any greenhouse effect going on in here. But that's definitely not because of that over there. So let's take a look at him. Oh my gosh, he looks so much better already. Hey dude. Okay, he looks fantastic. So I'm going to just put his hide back over him for now and check on his brother or sister. I don't know what the sex of these guys are. I don't want to mess with them until a week from when I got them. Like that too much because they are already extremely stressed. Looks like this one actually was a little cooler, which makes sense because this one over here was closer to the window. So this one only has a high of 88 degrees instead of 90. It's at 92 degrees or 82 degrees and falling, so that's great. If I didn't have that on here, if I didn't have the Polyfill in here, guys, it probably would be around 73 degrees in here. So that's why this stuff is so important. So let's check on this guy. Okay. How are you doing, huh? You doing okay? Yep, he looks like he's doing fine. This one has a messed up jaw. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it doesn't close all the way. I know it's really dark in here, and that's why my camera's having trouble focusing, but this room doesn't have any other lights in it yet, and we haven't bought a lamp for this room yet. So what we're going to do is just put this back over them, and we'll get on to the next step. of mite treatment. So another thing I want to show you guys is these water bowls right here. Yes, they have rocks in them. I know that's a little weird, and the reason for that being is you don't want your snakes getting into the water and being able to soak. And with these twins being so abnormally small, the usual water bowls that I use right over here were too small and they were soaking in them, and so what that does is it lets this NYX treatment get in the water, and it's actually a shampoo, so it washes off in the water really well, and then they drink it and it can be harmful for them, especially as babies. So obviously we don't want that. You want to make sure that you have a water bowl that is small enough that they cannot soak in, and if you see them soaking in it, replace the water like probably 2 or 3 times a day, and make sure you get that water bowl out of there because they won't stop soaking. And why do snakes soak when they have mites? Well, because they're trying to kill the mites that are inside underneath their scales, and the best way to do that is to drown them. That is the only way that these snakes can really get rid of them. So what are we going to do? We're going to drown the mites, and we're not going to soak them in a NYX solution like you may think. What we're going to do is over here I have this little deli cup, and we're going to put them in this deli cup. We're going to put some lukewarm water in here, and we're also going to put a little bit of just the regular old non-scented blue Dawn dish soap, and that's really important. Again, sorry about the camera being all fuzzy. We'll have that gone in just a second. You do not want to have just some crazy concoction of some kind of soap. You don't know if it's going to be harmful or not. Dawn dish soap is non-harmful. You won't have any issues with it at all. So please use that when, or if you guys ever have mites. And another thing is you don't need to use this method, the soaking method, on snakes that you don't see mites on. Once you don't see mites, maybe like I probably will still soak them for 2 days, and then I will just start treating them with the NYX spray every day, and I'll show you that later. Why that is because that means that you aren't going to be washing off any more adults because you don't see any more adults on them. If you see adults in a couple of days, then just start soaking them again. It's okay. The NYX will kill the adults, the bath will kill the adults, and also the Dawn dish soap rubs off any of the babies, like the baby, or not the babies, I'm sorry, the adults. They can't stick anymore, and so they actually like fall off and they drown in here, which is amazing. Then you guys eventually, what will happen is all the babies will hatch, they'll mature, they'll grow into adults, and they'll die because of the NYX spray and this treatment right here kept adults from continuing to make babies. So it is all about being thorough and being sanitary, and most importantly, being persistent. If you don't do the same thing every day, then you're just gonna keep having the same problems. Obviously, you probably don't want to do anything too crazy to upset your snake the day after it's eaten. Give them 24 hours of downtime. That way you know for sure they, well, not for sure, but you know that they most likely won't regurgitate. A lot of snakes actually won't even eat while they have mites. It's like the most irritating thing for them, because usually mites like to hang out around their eyes, around their cloaca, underneath their chin where that little flap is. It's not a fun time for these guys. So I guess what I can tell you about this, again, this is just NYX. You can find it at Walmart, and it is 2 ounces per gallon. If you have mites and you're having trouble getting rid of them, you can do 3 ounces per gallon. So what we're going to do now is get the guys in, or girls in here, and we're going to get them going in a lukewarm bubble bath. Alright, so we have them inside their little bubble bath right now. You can see their heads poking out, their bodies down here. If I just open this up really quick, hopefully they won't try to jet out too fast, but this may look cute and fun and stuff, but I promise you these guys don't think so. Really the only time, they're trying to hide right now, really the only time that you should ever soak your snake is 1, if you're trying to get rid of mites like we are, and 2, if your snake is extremely dehydrated. Some people, especially if you're getting wild-caught animals or animals that shipped from overseas, I would definitely recommend putting them in just some water, or even only clear Pedialyte for like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and that will allow them to start hopefully drinking, and also it also lets them release their bowels, which is always a good thing to have happen. It feels good for everything, I bet. And so as you can see, the water is above the snake's back. If I can get it to focus. Man, I'm having trouble with that today, even in this lighter room. But the water is above the snake's back. As you can see, he's having to lift up right here. So if you do it that way, which is totally fine, I probably will do it that way about half the time that I soak them. You have to watch them because they can't relax, and especially with these babies that are already weak, if they do relax, his head's going to go under the water and he will drown. So I'm just going to watch them and make sure that they're going to be okay and that they do fine. This will probably only be a 10-minute soak. I usually do 15 to 20 minutes, but again, since I have to watch them, it's just going to be a little bit longer. So a couple other things that you can do to help yourself from not getting mites, so as a preventative, would be just to use Nix as a preventative. So I spray every one of my snakes every time I clean their cage if they poop or something, and every time that I take them out of the cage, or if I'm taking them out to breed, I won't spray them, but when I separate them, I will spray them. It's not that, I mean, I look to see if there's mites every time that I start breeding on each one of the snakes. I don't think that there is, but it's just a good time to do it. And also it's way harder to see mites on regular colored snakes than it is on these albinos. For obvious reasons, mites are black, and obviously on an albino, something that's black, like you can see, I can see one right here, that's going to stick out a lot more on this animal than a dark normal or a cinnamon or really any gene out there. We can see the water tastes bad. They keep on yawning, poor things. Besides that, you can just make sure that if you go to a show, like we just were at an expo, keep all of your things that you had there in a different room, spray it all down with mite spray, because we sure did. Spray all the snakes down with mite spray, quarantine them for maybe like 30 days, and if you don't see any mites and you're spraying them, you know, every other day-ish, then you know that you should be good. Basically, every time that you get an animal from anyone, unless it's someone that you completely trust, like there's someone in my town, I go over to her house all the time, I take care of her animals when she's gone. I trust her 100%. I know her collection, like my collection, basically. I don't have any issues trusting her and just putting her animals straight into, if I were to buy one, straight into my rack. But that is a pretty rare case. Normally you should at least quarantine for 30 days. If not, normal quarantine is 90 days. Those African imports, we didn't sell them for 5 months, although we really weren't worried for mites, because in Africa you don't usually get mites. What you normally get is like ticks and internal parasites, and we didn't have any issues with those. So just being really vigilant, and again, it's all about just being on top of things and doing the same thing every day, and not slacking off, because the second you slack off, these things go crazy. I heard that, or I read in Reptile magazine, that one female mite can produce thousands of babies. And I just was like, wow, that's just one. And once you get them, you don't really know that you have them until there's full adults that are out there, and they have like, they turn black because they are eating your snake's blood. They're full of blood, and otherwise they're a clear color, so that it's really hard to see. But once you have adults, chances are you would have touched that snake that had mites, and then you would have touched other snakes right after that. And that's how they spread, and that's how they get around your collection, to all your different rooms, to all your different animals, not even just snakes. The good news is there are snake mites and there are lizard mites, and it's pretty rare to have snake mites get onto lizards, but it's definitely not unheard of. The other thing I want to touch on is other ways to get rid of them, which would be if you don't like nicks, I know a lot of people, not a lot, some people will say that it's bad for your animals. I've been using it for 3 years now, no problem. It's not, I don't think it's bad. But if you don't like nicks, what you can do is you can go and buy predatory mites. So they are mites that eat other mites. And they'll just keep eating your snake mites until they're all gone. They'll even eat their eggs and stuff, which is something that Nix and this Dawn dish soap doesn't really do the best job of, is getting rid of the eggs. So you have to wait for the mites to hatch, become adults and die, or become adolescents and die before they can breed. But with the predatory mites, they get rid of them quicker, but it's not always a 100% thing. You know, it's not a poison that's killing them, so it definitely doesn't always work. There are these yellow strips that we have here in the United States called pest strips. I've heard of a bunch of people using them, including my friend in town, and what she'll do is she will cut them up into about, I don't know, half-inch pieces, put them in something about this size that's plastic, and then punch some holes in it, and she'll put them in each one of her snake cages. She puts them on her racks, she puts them at the beginning, like the threshold of the room, the back of there, all over. You want all those holes in there so that there's good airflow, and what that will do is it will actually keep mites from getting a foothold in there. It won't kill them to the point where they are eradicated if you already have them, but it will definitely prevent them in the future, or it will even, you know, stop them from spreading if you have them. Although the safest thing to do is, if you do have them, remove those snakes that have them and put them in a different room. Lastly, there is a spray out there. I'm gonna have to grab my phone because I can never remember the name of it. It's not even a hard name. But this spray is really awesome. It's extremely expensive. I think, like, gosh, what was it, like 8 ounces is $50 or something on Amazon. But it is extremely toxic as well. It works though. And my friend had to use it because she found mites, and by the time she found them, it was too late. All of her snakes had them. It's not an issue though. They're all taken care of. Again, it's just being mindful and watchful and doing everything that you can every day. And so what do you do with a spray that you can't spray on an animal? Well, you spray it everywhere. The carpets, the rack itself, you spray it on a rag, and then you wipe the outside of the tub, and with the animal and not the bedding inside, you wipe the inside of the tub, and again, not the animal, and then you can put your snake back in there, and you can spray them with Nix spray, and then put the water in there. And that stuff got rid of her mites. Oh my gosh, there goes my dog. Jade, shh, shh, good boy. That stuff got rid of mites so fast for her. And again, you still have to wait about a month and a half to know for sure, and what she did, and there were no other mites. Those eggs hatched and they died, and that was the end of that. I have never seen someone get over mites too well just that well and that quickly. It was just done. They didn't have a chance. So that's another thing I would recommend. And if you do have mites, I keep aspen bedding, and so you want to switch that out, because aspen bedding, Reptichip, any other bedding has little flecks of stuff in it, and it's really kind of hard to tell sometimes, is that a mite or is that just a black fleck or a piece of dust or something. So keep all of those snakes that may have mites or do have mites on paper towels, and that will tell you way easier if that snake that you have has gotten over the adult phase of mites, or is still in the adult phase, or actually has them or not. If you're wondering, it's just the best way to do things. And the easiest way, because why not make it easier for you, right? So that is another thing I'd recommend. You can bump up the temperatures if they're babies. That helps. Again, that might just make them a little bit more hungry, but as adults, I'm not sure if that would really change anything. Adults seem to be grumpier and less willing to adapt. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. I'm sorry it tastes bad, guys. And I think I'm gonna go grab my phone really fast and see what that mite spray is called. Alright, and here's a photo of it. That's the stuff that you can get, and it has directions on it. I believe it was the same as Nick's, though, 2 milliliters per gallon, and then obviously you have to make a gallon. Just put it in a spray bottle, but the only thing about Tempo is you really have to shake it well, because if you don't, it separates, and then you're just spraying water. So make sure you do that. And that is something I think that you could use, not I think, you definitely could use as a preventative as well. It'll be great. Oh, okay, it's 4 milliliters in a large hand spray bottle. So it's not even per gallon, it's just per spray bottle, which is nice. And 2 milliliters of Nix per gallon is what I use. And for these guys, I'm using 3 milliliters because, again, they are pretty coated in mites. I'm not really seeing, you can see sometimes in the bottom, I'm not really seeing any floating around yet, so that's great. So what we're going to do is we're going to give these guys about 5 more minutes of me sitting here watching them, and then after that we're going to get them put into some nice clean water and just kind of rinse real fast, and then put back into their nice warm cages. So we'll be right back. Alright, now that we have these guys out of the soaking water, I put them in some lukewarm water. You don't actually have to do this step, just rinse them off. I just wanted to see if I could show you guys any of the mites on them and what to look for. Normally what you'd be looking for is one not on the snake and one that is completely just on standalone black on its own. A good way to tell, I forgot to say, this would have been probably important towards the beginning of the video, but a good way to tell if your snake has mites or not is if you just take a regular old towel, or like paper towel, and you just get a little bit of what's that stuff called? Vegetable oil. That's it. Thank you. Jeez. And again, sorry, and if you get a little bit of vegetable oil, put it on there, smear it around, let the snake run head to tail through it 3 or 4 times, and then if there's black specks on there, inspect them. You can usually tell to see if they're mites or not because they will have legs, and sometimes they'll be moving around. Obviously, if you did that after you did a soak, they would not be moving around. And actually, I'm seeing a lot less mites on these guys than last time. I was trying to see, I think I found one that you guys should be able to see. So if you look to, let's see, focus, there we go. If you look to right here by my thumb, that is a mite right there. That's still alive. It's not moving out from underneath the scales, and that is one that is underneath right now, underneath the scales. So we're gonna see if I can find any in the usual spots. Again, those would be around the eyes, the cloaca, and underneath the chin. And the weird thing is, when I first started looking at these guys, I didn't see any under the chin. So that's weird and good, but they did have some around their eyes, and those are gone, which is awesome because obviously that's a really painful spot to get them. It's just a couple around the belly right now. I don't see any near the cloaca, which is amazing. So that's good. And sorry about that. I don't know, my phone's blowing up. Let me put it on silence. Boop. There we go. And then let's try this other sibling real quick and see if we got anything. So this is the one with the messed up jaw. And I won't be doing their bath together pretty soon. Actually, next time I won't because, wow, this one has a lot more mites. I will be having them do a bath separate because I don't want one to, you know, have less mites and then get eggs on it and then all of a sudden it has more mites. So just a couple baths in and I already need to separate them. I might need to do it against my hands. Let me see. There we go. Alright, you can see there's one really big one right there. Right up here is where they all are clustered at. Right there. And then along the belly, there's some. And again, this is from a different friend of mine out of town. And he was great because he saw it immediately. He said, "What do I do?" And then he jumped on it right away. He got on it right away, and really there's nothing you can do unless you know that you have them. And he didn't, and the preventatives didn't work, and someone gave him a snake with mites, and it was just game over. It really is just that quick. So I am going to see real quick on this guy if any of these bigger mites are dead, and if they are, they should just slide right out from underneath the scales. So far, no luck. And also, if you can't get them out, just don't even worry about it, okay? Because what's going to happen very soon is, unfortunately, because of all the mites, your snake's skin is irritated, and if it's irritated, what's going to happen is these guys are going to shed and shed and shed and shed and be in perpetual shedding until they don't have mites anymore, because those little buggers are under their skin. Can you imagine how uncomfortable that is? Ugh, disgusting. So definitely want to be as careful as you can and do all the preventing that you can, because these poor guys are obviously miserable. And we're gonna just get them back in their cages. I'm going to spray down their cage again. I'm going to change the paper towels, spray down the paper towels, put them in there, spray them down, and then spray down the hide inside of it, put the hide on top of them, and then put their water back in. And when I say spray, I don't mean wet, just a couple spritz, enough that that shampoo will still be present on there through tomorrow. And I probably will change the paper towels every 1 or 2 to 3 days. Nothing crazy you have to do all the time. So I hope you guys learned a lot from this. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. These guys should be done with the adult phase in, well, by the next time they shed, so probably 2 or 3 weeks. By that point, it'll be a month and a half until they're probably all the eggs are gone and all of the mites are dead. And then after that, I will still keep them for a minimum of 2 months from the point I don't see any mites. That will be the minimum time until they will be done with quarantine. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Oh, and really big deal, make sure that you guys wash your hands with Dawn dish soap. Spray down any areas. I always spray myself with mite spray because, again, it's shampoo, it's human shampoo made for us to get rid of lice, so it's not going to hurt you. I always just spray down myself with it, my clothes with it, the area with it when I get done, just to be 100% safe. This is hard enough, not hard enough, but it's a long process with just these two. You know, pretty soon it's going to be a half an hour of soaking because I'm going to have to soak them separately. Can you imagine doing that with however many snakes and reptiles you guys have? So it's definitely worth it to just take the extra steps. So if you guys have any questions, again, our Facebook is down in the description below. Go ahead and click on the link and you can personal message us anytime. Our email is through there as well. If you guys would like to see our availability, please check our website. Link is in the description, and also has all the cool photos of all the snakes we currently have. And these guys will be for sale probably in about 3 or 4 months, once I'm positive they're eating, gaining weight, and are parasite free. That's the word I'm looking for, parasite. I'm gonna go drink some tea. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.